Hey everybody, Professor Snart checking in. We are amazingly past midterm, at least as far as the 8-week semester goes. So we're moving right along. It's pretty amazing how fast it goes, to be honest with you. Okay, so we have just finished Unit 7, which is our first essay, and now we move into Unit 8, which is a quick turnaround again, but or the sort of the normal turnaround for us, but involves a revision of essay number 1. So it's called essay 2, but it's not like you're writing from scratch in most cases, in almost all cases. You're working with pretty much what you've got, but obviously you have the opportunity now to revise. So think of revision, again, especially depending on sort of what grade you got, and so how much you have to change or want to change to get a better grade. Really think of revision as a re-seeing, if it needs to be a re-seeing. Does the thesis need to change? Do basic topic sentences need to change or become topic sentences? So do you need to make kind of umbrella sorts of changes or big changes like that? Not that they necessarily take a long time, but you know, they're different from just sort of editing things like catching MLA citation mistakes or comma splices or, you know, just stuff like that, grammatical kinds of things. So if it's needed, really, you know, be willing to do the revision instead of just little editing kinds of things. So your grade from the Unit 7 is in the grade book, but you'll also see a file that I've returned to you with sometimes not too many, sometimes quite a few comments in there or pieces that are highlighted that may draw your attention to major kind of revision things or big changes you want to make, or may just point out little grammar things or, you know, very minor kinds of errors, maybe works cited sorts of things. So be sure you read that document pretty carefully, looking for those things. If I mark something once, be sure to look throughout the document for that same kind of mistake, so I won't catch it every single time necessarily. And obviously, if you're going to use that particular document to work from for essay 2, which in a lot of cases makes sense, be sure to get rid of all that formatting that I've put in there. And to be honest, one of the things I look for is if a writer has attended to the comments that I've made in that second essay, you know, from the first, or is the same mistake still there, even though I've made a note of it. Again, hopefully you attend to that document I send back pretty carefully. Even though there may just be a few things, those are obviously things that you really want to focus on. So you can improve your grade, certainly, by making those changes. So it's you know, an opportunity to make improvements. But the focus that we're really looking at here is really less on changing those little kinds of things and more dealing with now a secondary source. So really kind of the research component of 1102, the research class. Okay, so I'm in Unit 8 here, which is, you know, the essay 2 assignment, but it begins with some kind of generalized feedback based on some sort of common errors that show up in essay number 1. So be sure to watch the video and obviously sort of compare yours to what's going on here, and is yours as effective at doing some of these basic kinds of things. There's the usual, you know, which hopefully you're sick of by this point, MLA reminders about formatting your works cited page, the page itself, which a lot of people had trouble with, individual entries that, again, give people some trouble. There's video walkthroughs here, so hopefully everything is just sort of laid out for you, like following models and examples. Nothing too, like I said before, mystical or hidden in here. The assignment itself is really just a matter of now integrating an appropriate, relevant secondary source into your essay. So there's a couple of things to remind you of here, and it's all, you know, in the unit as well. Appropriate, relevant. It means for most people database, so you're unlikely to check a book out on Alice Munro or Boys and Girls or whatever story or author you wrote on. So most people will use database. So you're not using the web, the general web, right? If you're using electronic sources, it has to be database stuff. It has to be something on the short story specifically, so not on child development or farming in the 1900s or Canadian, rural, whatever, dynamics. I don't know. It has to be a discussion of the particular short story. So that is pretty simple for me to check, right? I just scroll down to your works cited and see what's the source. Did it come from a database? Is it directly relevant to the short story? And here's where you need to be aware of the kind of grading situation, is that you can make improvements certainly in revision, changing little things. Maybe you revise the thesis, fix little editing mistakes. But fundamentally, the grade is based on the source you find. It has to be appropriate, relevant, and then, of course, how smoothly or effectively you integrate it throughout your essay. It's not just tagged on, a quote here or there randomly, or always at the very end of a paragraph, like you've just gone in and, sort of cut and pasted in this really mechanical way. It needs to become a part of your argument. So your grade can certainly improve if all of that is done correctly, but it can also really not improve quite dramatically if you use a wrong source, like just some web stuff. If you use a database, but it's a totally kind of tangential article that you found, again, like child development or stereotypes in society or something like that, something that isn't an actual direct discussion of the short story itself. Again, you can, I'm looking for really effective integration. Is it clearly part of your argument now? Are quotations integrated smoothly? They're introduced effectively. And again, you can go back to earlier units and review a lot of those examples that we've looked at for doing that effectively. Again, think shape of the paragraph. Secondary sources are probably not going to be in your intro, but will be in every single body paragraph, always supporting an idea that you've already introduced. So if you found an appropriate and relevant source, that's half of what I'm looking for. The other half is really, if you've all of a sudden got sources, making your points instead of you, so a quotation that begins a paragraph, that's not working. That's not the conceptual stuff that we've learned. So again, that's a large part of what I'm looking for. Is it appropriate source? Is it effectively integrated? Those are the two main components. So you probably won't get a lot of feedback relative to the overall essay like I would have done with essay number 1, because hopefully that's already in place and you've made those changes this time around. What I'm mainly looking for is that, basically doing the research correctly and then integrating it effectively. And of course, I look at the works cited and the citing within the text again to make sure that you're doing that correctly as well. Again, like I've said, ad nauseum now. There's lots of examples throughout our course. There's sample essays that you've looked at, MLA citation links area here. For those of you who maybe I noted there was a common kind of grammatical error or problem that you had, there's a couple of, or an extra practice area here where you can sort of pursue that individually to figure out, well, what is a comma splice and how do I fix it and that kind of thing. So, there's lots of resources in the course, I think. It's just a matter of you kind of reaching out and using them or finding them. And of course, as always, if you have questions or concerns or whatever's going on, feel free to be in touch with me. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Okay, so I look forward to seeing those revisions or essay number 2, and I will talk to everyone soon.